Okay. So, thank you everyone for attending today's program. Strategic Virtual Design and Construction Project Delivery. Because we are recording this, for those of you that are live for today, being August 19th, you will receive 1.5 HSWs. If you are listening to a recording later, you would need to self-report. I just wanted to let you know that. There will be Q&A time throughout this entire presentation. However, I also encourage you to use the chat box. I will be addressing those questions to Ernest along the way. And then could you please, everybody, make sure you mute, because any background noise is a real conflict with the presenter, and then making sure there's clarity for all. And then at the end of this presentation, I will come back on and I'm going to give you the email that you will send your name and your member number to, so that we can go ahead and record your learning units. So at this point then, I think we're good to go. And Ernest, I will turn this over to you.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm awfully pleased to be here. And I'm awfully pleased with the proposed attendance. I just wanted to introduce this project and presentation this morning, Strategic Virtual Design and Construction Project Delivery. Project delivery really resonates with me. But it'll be about an hour and a half. Jeff, I'm getting a lot of background noise.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, you have the ability to mute people on your host screen.
Yes, I already did that.
Okay, good. So I was just introducing the subject as well as myself, and I just wanted to say, I'm the chair of the Project Delivery Knowledge Committee, a robust committee of some really great people who are committed to this aspect of project delivery. We've been looking at virtual design and construction throughout the year. Went back to Washington, D.C. for the symposium, where virtual design construction was a highlight of conversation. So this is going to be a conversation today that I'm really enthused and excited about, and sprung from the several meetings that we've had together, and it relates to this subject, which is today's conversation. And I'd like to have it to be a conversation rather than just a presentation. And Jeff mentioned that it can be interactive, and that he can share questions and have some discussion as well. In fact, the attorney that we interviewed under the category influences will be present in the conversation today as well. And he may bring some examples of successes and failures in the realm of project delivery. This is a broad brush, and it's intended just to be very broad and general. We can be specific when we really drill down on any one of the subjects, but the subjects include 7 different categories, beginning with an overall perspective, and then a discussion and a conversation about values and benefits of the virtual world of design and construction. And then we'll talk a little bit about the technological aspects, some of the softwares that are available, some of the things that are happening out in the field, and then the processes, of course, talk about the actual project activities from the life cycle standpoint of a development, all the way through to commissioning and operation and occupancy of projects. And services include both services related to consultants as well as to in-house participants in the project and delivery systems. I've got just 3 examples that I wanted to talk about, and they're each one of them significant to the process of and history of virtual design and construction. And then the influences, again, is really just a perspective of from the developer, the architect, the contractor, attorney, and insurance perspectives. So given that, then I wanted to just introduce, I really wanted to introduce myself as well. I'm an architect, have been for many, many years, AIA member, have all the credentials with LEED and certifications, both in architecture and construction. I have a very strong background in construction, having worked in the design build realm, working around the world, producing projects in a design build construction company for a few years in the past decade. But historically, I began my journey with virtual design and construction back in the 80s. And that's one of the things I wanted to just express is the project that I was working on in the 80s is called the Gateway Project in Irvine. We designed this project in 1984, and it was under construction up in first occupancy in 1986. And that was a time before there was virtual design and construction. It was a time when there wasn't the technology necessary to communicate 3-dimensionally with design intent to all the disciplines. In fact, I was working with AC Martin at the time, and our in-house software allowed us to do certain things, but that was also the time that Apple was developing their first floppy disks and ability to do some modeling. So in 1984, that was the beginning, and this could be an hour-and-a-half conversation all by itself. But the fact is, we had archaic tools then, and we weren't able to provide our own in-house staff or the world with virtual design and construction. I have another point of perspective, and this comes from the president of the National Institute of Building Sciences, David Harris, and I just wanted to read his words. They were very compelling for me, and I'll just read. Emerging initiatives such as open interoperable software allows us to model building performance virtually to ensure that integrated design is achieved before the building is built and tested in a real-world extreme conditions. By working toward more integrated building delivery process, developing better measurement criteria, and integrating those criteria into education, training, and practice, the building community can make worthwhile and lasting advances in the ways building performance is achieved and the level delivered. So thank you for bearing with me. Those are words that really inspire me, and I wanted to share them word for word. Another point of perspective has to do with the periods of building information modeling development. In 1976 or 1975, when all of us were just kind of starting out in Orange County, there was just the very beginning of the condition where in the test tube plans were developed. The planning was developed where they were all contained in the same description of elements. By 1986, the CAD system was conceived. The integrated CAD system was conceived and began the journey to a coordination and consistency of design information. By 1982, there were building reference models beginning to be available in different parts of Europe and around the world. And by the year 2000, Revit was on the table. Our own office staff at that point had Revit up on our computer. We were developing models of the projects that we had in process. And for the first time, we had shared knowledge, resource of information, and a reliable basis for making decisions throughout the life cycle of the buildings that we were designing. So by 2020, today, the application of BIM is transforming the way we work in design and construction. Values, again, have to do with the benefits that are available in the world of virtual design and construction. And just to highlight a couple of them: quality control, focus identity of issues, alignment of the documentation and the models of the various disciplines, coordination between disciplines in a way that was never available to us before, and a whole different level of efficiency for project delivery. Another value or benefit is the bringing forward of lean principles of construction. Again, decades past, these principles were established. They've been in action and application, improving workplace efficiency where applied. And there are 5 principles that I wanted to highlight, including one called defining value. They have names for each of these principles, but defining value is really focusing on what the customer wants, the common purpose. Why are we here, and what are we building, and how can we bring greatest value to the process? The next step is the mapping the value stream, and that's really looking at the entire process of project delivery, finding methods for eliminating waste and generating quality at every step. The next principle is creating value of work processes, where the integration and alignment of quality with quality is inherent and inside and integral with the work processes. And then they use the term using pull system, and that really means the fast delivery through efficiencies in planning and scheduling. So there's an overview and a looking forward through the process in order to bring the greatest level of efficiencies in every step of delivery. And then pursuing perfection is the one that I really care the most about, I guess, is optimizing zero defects. As an expert at quality control professionally, my goal is always to optimize zero defects and require continuous improvements with the teams and developers that we work with. Another value that's really important to me is the constructability. Again, my background is both architecture and construction. And as architect on the team with contractors and developers, that constructability was premier in my daily activities, where the architects were on my right hand and the project managers in the field were on my left hand, and both of them had their focus on me to ensure that constructability was premier in all of the development of the design and the field conditions. So the term constructability defines the ease and efficiencies with the structures that can be built. Constructability is also the project management technique to identify obstacles before the project is actually built. And it's part of the reflection of the quality of the basic design, whereas the more constructible structure is, more economic it's going to be. Coordination too is premier in my thinking and my professional experience, and the success of any project depends heavily on extensive and seamless coordination between multiple disciplines. We are a multidisciplinary world and a multidisciplinary profession. Architects have never stood alone, and that multidisciplinary aspect brings together the architects, civil engineers, landscape architects, structural, mechanical, planners, surveyors, and technical specialists, all with their own perspective. Our goal as architects, of course, are to orchestrate, be the orchestra, the conductor, orchestrating all of the design side. And then they're joined by the constructors and fabricators who build the project, and the facilities personnel who operate the completed building. So the integrated project design team produces and manages all of the information about the project, including a range of details, must be coordinated, reviewed, and agreed upon. Now, this is a really important part, agreed upon by the entire team. And that's
Hi, Joan Marshall.
Yeah, Jeff, are you able to mute? Okay. So agreed upon by the entire team is a real important part of the project delivery process now, where the architect and the construction team are much more integrated. They're virtually in the same room and facing the same models and engaged with the same conditions and challenges. So the coordination and alignment of each of those details by the entire team is an important and vital aspect of project delivery. So that really points to collaboration, which is working with each other to do a task to achieve shared goals. Contractor, our favorite contractor, just talks about the sharing of goals and the real purpose statement of projects, where the entire focus of the entire team is on those shared goals, with a deep collective determination to reach an identical objective by sharing knowledge and learning and building consensus. And it sometimes is probably a circle and a challenge to build consensus, but that's the methods that are available to us now in the virtual world like never before. And just that one part that I'm so aware of, the review process itself is a form of collaboration, where by reviewing and looking at each of the disciplines carefully, understanding their work and then their integration with other works is it's really the springboard for true collaboration. This is a shift now from the values to the technology, and technology I call is really tools. And one of the great tools that we have developed to have available to us is building information modeling. What an incredible aspect of our modern world BIM has brought to us with the invention and application of BIM as an intelligent three-dimensional model-based process that gives architecture, engineering, and construction professionals the insight and tools to more effectively plan, design, construct, and manage buildings and infrastructure is just awesome. It's just a delight and an opportunity that we've never had available to us before in generations past. Another aspect of one of the tools in our quiver now that's available is the aspect of conflict analysis, where we can take apart the buildings and look at them in any range of possibilities that we choose, and we can look clearly at how the mechanical system and the plumbing system and the electrical systems are interfacing, and where a duct is going through a precast post-tension slab, and we can be very clear when there's any conflicts apparent in the virtual building model that we have available now. The computer-based model of the building shows the team players where parts of the structure itself will wrongly intersect and interfere with each other. The other aspect of the tools in our tool belt is simulation, and simulation is stepping into almost, it's very strongly moving into a 3- and 4-dimensional world where the use of the computer to represent dynamic responses of one system by the behavior of another system modeled after that is significant, apparent, and available now like never before. Virtual reality, something that other architects in our community have put a lot of energy and focus on in the past decade, is related to conveying information, very detailed information, to the design and construction team, as well as clientele, where our clients now can virtually move through a building that hasn't been built yet and choose colors and textures and volumes in a way that's never been available before. And augmented reality, the other aspect of virtual reality, is stepping into a world of our next generation of kids and growing up teenagers now, where the games that they play are involved with the augmented reality and bring a world that is still on our drawing boards into their presence and into their experiences. The other item that we're beginning to have just a lot of fun with now is fabrication and 3D printing. In fact, it'd be wonderful to have a 3D printer in our own office, and we will someday soon. But the computer-aided manufacturing is now using software that was developed in manufacturing and the aerospace industry in years past, and is so present in the construction field now with the automated manufacturing processes. 3D printing is bringing to us the opportunity for physical model building quickly. A good example of that is something that we experienced a couple of Fridays past when we were in another architect's office, and he was showing us a circular stairway that he had just modeled. It was at model scale, but it was something that he developed so that he could do several things. One of them was to study alternative ways that he might develop and structure the handrail systems, but also to share with the clientele what the look, feel, and character of this strong sculptural feature would be in their new proposed living room. So having that 3D printing available to us today is just an opportunity where we can quickly express our design thinking. This part of virtual technology and tools is related more, it's beginning to be more related to the logistics aspect of the construction field. And what's important here in this slide is the use of software and computer-controlled machinery to automate the erection processes in building construction in a building construction development. So, from a logistical standpoint now, by generating computer simulations of processes, materials, and methods, simulating those ahead of time brings to the field the added opportunity to understand clearly what the challenges and opportunities will be in that logistical process. A programming breakthrough many decades ago that I became aware of as a very young apprentice architect was a critical path method of construction programming. And it's been a tool, an asset, and an opportunity for me throughout my career, and is central to the effective and efficient design and development and construction portion of project delivery. A staple of project scheduling used across many industries where time is money. In our office, we've used the critical path method many times to illustrate to clientele what needs to be done and by when, what activities they can expect to be blended with other functions throughout the process. And it's really a shorthand for talking about how duration is affected when project variables change. This is a diagram that I'm especially pleased to have access to, because although it's a little bit fuzzy on the screen, it talks about the virtual lifecycle project delivery process. And you'll note that as you go around the circle, design, building, and operation each has an arrow and a space between them. And those spaces are really important and vital spaces. The one on the left between operate and design is the space of beginning, where the programming and the concept is generated and brought forth by the development team and by the design and construction team, where it's just the seed thought, the party of what is possible in the process of developing a new project. The other point between decision or design and building is that point that's really enhanced and enabled and expanded by what's called the management model. And that's really the point where the design model is actually beginning to be utilized in the field, and that between design and build is the highlighted point between documentation and fabrication, where that management model takes a very strong and apparent position. That too is an aspect that we'll be talking about through the next set of slides, where each aspect of the project delivery process will be looked at in more careful detail. The other cornerstone between building and operation is that aspect of logistics. Logistically, you'll see a crane and a structure down in the lower right-hand corner, and that's where the logistics of construction show up. And when they're totally successful, that space between building and operation is one of the most successful parts of the design and construction, virtual design and construction process. Construction project programming, of course, is the beginning. It's where the conception, the initiation of the ideal vision, the planning and conceiving the right course of action through the process of project development, the execution, where we go from and we're still in the virtual model and in the virtual world, but we're going into the execution aspect, where from design, we're now putting legs on our ideas and our planning and design aspects, and converting that from vision to physical form. Then performance, of course, is the monitoring of alignment, the ideal and real. So project delivery is the fifth step, where completing execution for the defined purpose provides us with the opportunity to realize our integrated design concepts. I'm using an illustration here of a transparent structural form. And it's that transparency that I wanted to really point to, because the basic integrated design concept is a result of research, analysis, collaboration with the client, and all the engineering, design, and construction stakeholders. That form that comes out of the design concepts is expressed in the original virtual models to visualize the merits of the project and to determine the course of action for developing the concept into a fully integrated master design model. And that master design model again is a shared, there's shared ownership to that master design model, because every engineer has input his knowledge and experience, and introduced the opportunities that are inherent in his experience and design thinking. And the contractor and the construction team, when it's a fully integrated project, are also able to participate in the development of this master integrated design model. It's generally in the architect's office. It's being developed by the architectural and engineering team. So it's a resulting assembly of the architect's design model in conjunction with those of all prime engineering disciplines, including the influences of the construction stakeholders. Project team can use it and abuse it as well in visualizing and determining the project's inherent attributes as a solid basis for future analysis, for conflict resolution through the process of design, and refinement and implementation of the design ideas and concepts. Through that process of developing the master model is the analytical and evaluation process by the architects and the quality control team members, the engineering disciplines and the architect, and also even the prime subcontractors, the stakeholders who can use it to visualize and determine the integration of the systems that may be affected when the project variables change. You can just see in the diagram how you've got structural components, you've got mechanical components, plumbing is moving through, and you can just understand how that virtual model, that transparency, has so beneficially influenced the development of design through the design process. When that analysis is complete at the design level, that integrated management model is possible. And the integrated documentation and management model is the combination of two-dimensional contract documents now in relation to the three-dimensional virtual representation of the integrated building systems. And so the application of the model-based design is a process that involves analyzing digital systems representation to facilitate the development of project logistics as the construction, right action, and related decision-making begins to occur. So this again, this transparency in the virtual model has the incredible use and value to the contractor and all of his prime subcontractors as they analyze, break apart, and begin the prefabrication process in preparation for actual construction and erection on the site. The prefabrication models, I always use the example of steel, and you can see the steel structure on the right there in that image, where every piece of steel that goes in there is a special, unique piece. They all look the same when you're standing back across the street, but when you're over there in the steel fabricating shop, you see that the end of every piece of steel is a special system of plates, bolts, and welded connections. And you see that the absolute precise length of each piece is carefully prefabricated. So the practice of generating detailed models of a variety of components of a structure or system for manufacture at a separate site is vital to the performance in the field of the logistical connection of all the pieces and the bringing on and erection of the structure. They're located to the construction site, and the virtual model allows for the manufacturer to visualize the relationship of what he's up to, what he's doing, to the other adjacent features and structures, to determine the course of right action for their methods of fabrication and ultimate connections. The aspect and opportunity that we have in among our virtual world also reaches into the logistics, the site logistics of building these projects, with the construction, erection, and assembly of the parts and pieces and methods of construction come to bear. The application of the management model to the process of construction logistics include analyzing the interface of equipment, materials, and methods of assembly and erection related to the site and building conditions. You can see on the right now that we've got plans and models in place, but we're also able to look at what's that crane doing when the truck rolls up. Is logistically everything in order so that truck and that delivery of materials is right on track and right on time and in the right and proper location, so that the factors of project scheduling and integration with the related functions across many industries are accounted for, where again, time is money. The construction stakeholders can use that management model to visualize and determine the effect when project variables change. As we move forward to the commissioning and operations logistics, where that point between construction and occupancy occur, the commissioning and operations is a vital part of the virtual world as well, where the systems included in the commissioning process are identified. The startup is beginning of all the systems. The mechanical, plumbing, and electrical are now in process, and the construction stakeholders can manage those aspects of project delivery virtually with a strategic plan for accomplishing each of the construction logistical goals. Again, the critical path method implementation there then has been woven through every step of the process of virtual design and construction, and is very apparent where the construction stakeholders are using CPM to determine a project's duration, and to use it as a shorthand for discussing how scheduling is affected when the project variables occur. The next category of discussion now is services. I'm looking at my watch, and it looks like we're just right on time, about halfway through the presentation, and leaving some time for questions and answers at the end. So the services are really a combination of services that are integral to the design and construction team members, and they're often applied and used by consultants and consulting team members. So the first one is BIM implementation, and we recently were involved in a hospital project where existing conditions were very apparent in what was needed for the application of BIM and the coordination of the models on the design side for delivery to the hospital for construction, and then ultimately for their management and long-term involvement with the building, its systems, and potential changes and modifications in the future. So the BIM implementation was a vital part of the project delivery, and certainly a vital part of the circular process of the virtual model and its place in the design and construction process. Taking the time to devise a thought-out strategy and generating the implementation process is both cost and time efficient. I often think that the extra time that it takes to integrate all of those systems within the model, where sometimes there's a resistance from one engineering discipline or another, that integration is critical to the values that are brought in the virtual world for every aspect of the project development. This is one of my favorite parts of the conversation, and one of my favorite parts of project delivery. It's a place that I held strongly between the architects and the project managers in the field when I was developing projects internationally. And the BIM quality control review and analysis aspect, three-dimensionally in the model, is a critical and vital important part of the delivery process, and cannot be overlooked. So I'm showing an image of plumbing and mechanical and electrical systems all interconnected, and the quality control review of the project management model includes generating BIM views of detailed project conditions, organizing associate documents related to the virtual model by discipline, and analyzing the virtual and diagrammatic systems interface. I'll just stop on this slide for a second, because one of the things that I do in quality control review is to look at that drop of water that's on the roof. I follow that drop of water through the entire structure to ensure that it's going from the sky to the earth in an organized and disciplined way, and that conflicts don't occur. So that quality control review part of the process virtually allows us to pre-predict every aspect of potential conflict in the operation, the construction and operation of the future construction site. BIM coordination of disciplines is another aspect that is close to my heart. Since the project leadership brings together the architects, engineers, and professionals from each discipline to produce and manage all information about the project. I think my favorite part of project delivery is when everybody's in the same room and everybody is on purpose with bringing their value, their experience, and their vision together in a purpose statement that results in what you see on the right, which is a structure meeting the sky. So the shared models and integrated quality control methods provide transparency among potentially conflicting systems, bring together the conversation in the cohabitation aspect of the construction process, and bring about the resulting smooth and efficient erection and construction of the project. The conflict analysis part, of course, is the clash detection, also called clash detection, where changes in the way in which project team is enabled to collectively view and understand where conflict may occur and interactively address optional solutions. We didn't used to have so many options. We didn't used to have so many opportunities for looking at potential conflicts in a virtual way and a holistic way where we could generate project efficiencies, reducing costs and the expense of wasted time by pre-predicting where conflicts may occur. And then another tool that's available now, and it's so much a part of what we enjoy as parents and team members as well, is down at the Fun Zone, where animation has provided us with the application of modern logistical management of all of the aspects of trucks rolling up and materials being delivered and cranes lifting parts and pieces into the sky. I mean, we can see all that. We can create an animation of what that logistical aspect of tomorrow's world, what we're going to be up to tomorrow, can be fully animated on the screen today in the office, and we can all jointly look at it and understand how that BIM animation service can resolve complex logistical issues and provide for clear understanding of efficient and integrated sequences and methods out on the site. Reality capture modeling for construction and logistics is just a vital part that our team, our in-house team is very aware of and experienced with. And it has to do with the capture that provides the basis for building virtual models during construction of conditions where conflict is present or where coordination among systems or components is required. A good example of that is a condition that we had on a project recently where the 9th floor was supposed to provide access to the roof of a hotel we were working on. And it hadn't been thoroughly thought out in the model. It had been such a small item that nobody cared too much about it. But the roof and the floor of the 9th floor weren't intersecting well. Fact is, with a virtual, with a laser scan, we were able to understand what the actual present physical conditions were surrounding all the aspects of that interface of building planes. And there was a conflict present, and the coordination among the systems was required. With modern logistical management that relies on generation of virtual models of detailed existing conditions, the data was gathered, and it provided the benefit and the efficiency and productivity during the construction process for delivering the solutions in the field ironing out all the wrinkles of the existing conditions on between building plans and delivering the solution to the site and bringing resolution immediately. It's also beneficial for the delivering of the as-built BIM to the project ownership and the facilities management upon completion. So important in projects like one of our committee members is involved with at the John Wayne Airport, where they have a virtual model of every nut and bolt and screw in the entire complex of the airport district and development. And that facilities management model then illustrates the conditions, the existing conditions, and when some changes occur and modifications are required, which are constant in an airport situation and in a hospital situation, many others, the BIM, the final BIM model becomes fundamental to future facilities management activities. And again, the critical path scheduling is just integral with every aspect. It's the shorthand for addressing how duration is affected when project variables change. I guess the last part of the services is what's now called cohabitation. And I first really became aware of that term when I was in the symposium in Washington, D.C. Earlier in the year, where the UCI project, UCI design and construction management was expressing to the audience how in their project delivery process, they had one floor of a building that was the war room, but it was also where cohabitation occurred, where the team members, each having an important piece of the project, an assembly for the project development, were required to be in the room. The architects were there, the engineers were there, the subcontractors were there, and each piece of the puzzle of project development was central to the conversation. The construction documents and management model is required for each discipline and to be present in those cohabitation and environments where vital and important decisions are being made and scheduling assignments are established and the project is moving forward. I wanted to just take an opportunity to go back in history a couple of decades now to the Disney Concert Hall as an example of the focused application of the whole concept of virtual design and construction. That project was impossible. From a construction side, it was beyond difficult on the design side. And from a fabrication and prefabrication point of reference, there was no apparent method for moving this project from design to the field. The design and construction team made history by building the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, working with Stanford University, some of the brainchildren of the coast, and Disney Imagineering. This was 20 years ago when the project would have been nearly impossible using conventional construction processes, even using conventional design processes. The virtual design and construction method of project delivery gave the engineers the detail needed to make such a complex design reality. So when we look back and look forward, we can just see that this aspect of the process, this opportunity for modeling, for bringing transparency, for breaking down the many aspects and subtle shifts in plane, dimension, and material can be transparently analyzed and realized from concept to reality. So again, two decades ago, this was a challenge beyond the capabilities of conventional processes, and so that was the time that the software, the technology had to be introduced, software had to be refined, and the design teams had to go through that learning curve of learning and applying the benefits and value of technology to every step of the design and construction process. It was several years later that another complex project came onto the boards, and it's the Denver Art Museum project right in the center of town in Denver. A robust and rigorous concept right in the heart of town, close to the governmental center, and wanted to be a striking element of the urban space. And this project too was one where the building's rigorous geometry and sculptural form were a driving force for the adoption of the BIM technologies in the design and construction process. To have this as a completely transparent object that could be taken apart and put together again by each of the disciplines brought incredible value to the city, to the architects and engineers, and to the construction. Every one of the project prime construction contractors. The design team visualized, analyzed, and communicated the building design through physical and virtual modeling methods. And the result was incredible. The steel manufacturers and fabricators were able to find streamlining opportunities in their process when it was still transparent, and they had the opportunity to look at the final vision from a technical standpoint. And they were able to streamline the steel fabrication and erection process in a way that resulted in the saving of 3 months of time in the construction process and nearly $500,000 in economic benefit that went back to the city of Denver, and the real developer and owner of the museum project. I just wanted to make one last comment, and that is the 3D modeling was a means to understand and document that building design. So this is something that our team, our project Delivery Knowledge Committee is very warm to is the Sophie Stadium in Los Angeles. It's being built. It's a design build project by AECOM and Turner, and it's a monumental project. It's one that's been in design and construction now from design to construction many years. It was designed by I'm not clear on the actual name of the design architect, although I've seen them in person. But it's an unprecedented, unparalleled destination and architectural engineering and construction feat. It's monumental. It's complex. It's being developed or built by Turner, who has become masters of integrated project delivery, that integrated system of delivery that includes and embraces all of the team members, and which has been apparent in the streamlining of the project, even through the state shutdown and the challenges of time and distance and manpower even during this period in California. So the building sculptural form and complexity inspired the integration of BIM technologies. The design team visualized, analyzed, and communicated the building design and construction through physical and virtual modeling methods. Again, it goes back to the earlier statement that the project is built in the computer, erected in the field. Our committee was scheduled to visit this team under construction in March, just as COVID-19 shut down the state, stopped access to the project, but it's actually now being delivered. It's way over budget, but it's being delivered and will be is scheduled for opening this month, August of 2020. I wanted to touch on the influences, and what I really am talking about is the perspective of all the various players that influence professional performance. The conversation is really about professionalism. It's really about the application of the best tools, the use of our finest minds, the integration of people, materials, visionaries, and hard workers. It's a team effort, and the team leader leadership still lands in the heart and soul of the architect. Modern architects are adapting now to the changing standards of professional performance. And in the virtual world, the practice for project delivery of architectural projects, history and culture are transformed. By embracing the influence of current and developing technology, the delivery and through the virtual modeling and physical construction has revolutionized the project. I had a statement too, and that is that although some architects consider that the transformations that result from integrated virtual project delivery methodology may lessen their role and control of design and construction, there's also the potential that VDC will enhance and increase their influence on the future of VDC project delivery for finer, more robust, more interesting, and potentially more efficient buildings of the future. The developer's perspective is a little bit different. The developer's role is not typically being the early adapter of changing standards of professional performance in our present culture. And that really has to do with the financing and the funding influences that generally require guaranteed savings results from the use of current developing technology. They want to make sure that the bottom line is increased by the application of these extra steps of creating a virtual world and integrated modeling of the project. So that's an aspect that's a concern, but it's also an opportunity because many developers are beginning to be inspired to include integrated virtual design and construction concepts and services into their project delivery strategy. There's something that's come on my screen that I don't understand. Let's see if I can get it up. Okay. The contractor's perspective is somewhat different from the developer's. The resounding statement that we now hear, build the project in the computer and erect it in the field, influences our perspective on state-of-the-art construction in the present. Bringing together constructors for each discipline to produce and manage all information about the project, then resolving the spectrum of practical, economic, scheduling, and logistical issues within the computer-based virtual management model is a condition of the present, a highly efficient method of project delivery available to us in the construction industry. So from the contractor's perspective, he has tools today that 20 years ago they just dreamed about and can be applied on a daily basis to greater efficiency, greater profitability, and enhanced professional practice. The standards now of professional practice have been enhanced, and our present and history and culture is influenced every day in the delivery process. The attorney's perspective is an interesting one. As the counselor influencing architects, engineers, and contractors in their respective disciplines to clearly define what they will do, what they will not do, and what they will do for additional compensation, and to produce and manage all information about the project within the methodology of virtual design and construction principles is becoming state-of-the-art of the future for complex projects. The attorneys are in favor of this transformation. From a liability standpoint, the architect, engineers, and contractors potentially generate a no-fault based system, unbelievable in our historical world, a no-fault based system that is generally protected under a project policy and relies on design, build, or integrated project delivery contractual structure to establish responsibilities and relationships. It's a shift in how we build our contracts. It's a shift in how we insure our projects and our liabilities and our exposure. It's a shift and a transformation in how we integrate our efforts for the benefit of society, of our professions, and of the creativity available to us in the world of the future. Examples of successful projects incorporating the VDC technology and methodology are now established and set the bar high for professional performance now and into the future. very interesting insurance underwriter's perspective. And it's surprising in some ways, but very supportive in others, in relation to responsible in relation and response to risk management issues. The condition that virtual design and construction project delivery potentially generates that term that we used before, a no-fault based system. The feedback from the underwriter's perspective is that we do view BIM positively. These types of services provide the best way to find issues before anything goes into construction. The other point of view is that VDC gives an insured a way to better communicate to their clients and meet their expectations. What better way to see a representation of your potential projects? As far as BIM goes, we apply an underwriting credit to up to 15% for BIM use. So the architects who are engaged with building information modeling technology are benefiting on the insurance side, which is significant, with the support from the underwriting position. As a carrier, this appears to be a beneficial risk management tool. It can be used throughout the design process and among the entire project team, or to help avoid and/or catch errors and omissions. I wanted to take this opportunity. We're going to pick up questions. We've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to be able to respond to questions, but I also wanted to introduce our team, which is the strategic consulting services of Stewart Architecture, Kimberly Stewart and Ernest Stewart, being the principals and providing consulting services to architects, engineers, developers, and the contractors, construction industry throughout, involved with almost every aspect of those services that we highlighted in the service category of our presentation. So at this point, I'm completely open to questions, and I'd be very pleased to have those being brought forward. Anything you have received, Jeff, from your side, I'd be open to receiving and responding to now.
Yes, actually, we do have one. And before I mention this, I just want to let everybody know right now the email address. And again, when you're done with this meeting, you email to Marilee Edgar and give her your member number and that you attended this project delivery program, so that we can verify it. We need to keep this type of information. So if you need to look up learning units at a later date, we have that. So it is medgar, MEDGAR @aiaoc.org. I'm sure many of you have emailed her before. You can also find her on the website. And again, after this is done, just email her you attended and make sure you give her your member number if you can, please. That'll help her out. So Ernest, we do have a comment here, and let's see. I'm just reading.
I hope I didn't miss something.
Nope. So it's fairly long. So, thank you, Alex, for posting that. Yes, that is correct. If anyone wants to look at the chat line, you'll find Marilee's email address there. I'm going to read this full statement here just because it's a little long. I don't want to miss anything. We've been trying to introduce integrated project delivery for years. Unfortunately, even if the client likes the concept, they are reluctant to commit to the construction team member at the beginning of the project. They will take whatever they can get for free, but want the option to go conventional bid. With a commitment from the client, you can't get the involvement necessary for true IPD. What have you done to overcome this situation?
What have I done? What the industry has done is highlight and promote the results of IPD. When we spoke with Turner a couple of months ago, they generated the new hospital and medical center in San Francisco for Sutter up there, and produce it completely in an IPD structure. And they found that Turner actually has quite a bit of experience with IPD, and particularly often in the medical field. But in the Sutter project, they streamlined, they refined, they integrated in such a way that they were able to complete and produce that project ahead of schedule, under budget, to the point where each of the members of the IPD team distributed over $1 million back to their profitability. Now that's talking about the electrical contractors and the mechanical contractors and the general contractors and the architects, everybody who was in that war room, everybody who was cohabitating on a daily basis, pursuing efficiency and excellence of professional performance, received individual benefits for their participation in that level of efficiency and dedication to the purpose that they were all there for. So I can't answer the question except by using examples where IPD has been apparently used, where we showed the Disney concert hall. We showed the project in Denver. Benefits come to the community and to each one of the individual players in the orchestra being conducted by within this virtual environment. So that's the only answer that I really have, is that time is going to tell. Our developers are going to find ways to adopt the principles and the reality of these opportunities in such a way that there's going to be a future filled with integrated project delivery methods of development. I hope I answered the question in a beneficial way.
This is Larry Treglia, if I can chime in.
Respond on that a little bit, Ernest. Since we've talked about this a lot, I'm Ron Everly. I'm a member of Ernest's committee. I've often heard the description of IPD-ish, ISH, because there has been some reluctance of owners to commit up front. And so the IPD-ish is a way to integrate using all the communication tools, even though maybe the full team hasn't been committed right at the conception of the project. I shouldn't say conception, it has to be designed first, but at the early stages of project delivery. And so I just think, like Ernest had said, it's probably slow coming around. I believe the issues that we're now experiencing with COVID-19 are probably going to delay some of the cohabitation, which is really critical to getting everybody in the same buildings for true IPD. But nice thing about it is we through this whole experience this year, we learned a lot more about communicating virtually, such as we're doing now. So I think there'd be a trend towards doing that. That's only my comment. I've been like Ernest, I've been involved with design, build, and other alternative project delivery throughout my career, as well as having attended some seminars on the topic. Found out, like I always say, I found out how much I didn't know about it, or I thought I knew quite a bit whenever you attend one of these functions. So that's all I had to say about it.
Well, bless you, Ron. I really appreciate that input. And your timing was perfect in that regard, because you're amplifying something that is going to be presented next week on the 25th. Brian Pratt, who's the assistant vice chancellor on the UCI campus in charge of design and construction, will be making a presentation on just exactly the answer to your input, Ron, which is IPD-ish. And the presentation is going to be talking about how the UCI campus, who is committed to the design build method of project delivery, will be speaking about how their IPD-ish way of being has brought huge successes to them as the owner, manager, and landlord of the new projects that are being built on the campus. And specifically, that IPD-ishness comes from Brian's orchestration as the owner of the design build process, where everything is virtual. They do have that war room, and they do have cohabitation, and they've got plenty of space in which to do that. And he, as the owner, shoulders the responsibility of making the process IPD-ish, in that he's able to, as the owner, make recommendations, but also to shoulder the impacts when either they, as the owner, make choices to make changes or make choices to streamline the process and realize benefits, financial and economic benefits through the process. So design build is a process of project delivery that's very successful throughout the nation, the world, and especially California, and in particular some of the contractors that we know and work with. And on the airport, also, Ron, your projects are delivered on a design build basis as well. So that IPD-ishness is something that I think is a step in the absolutely the right direction to the future of project delivery. So thank you very much for your input in that regard. And we'll get lunch next week.
Ernest, we have another question here. However, I know Larry was going to bring up a point. I don't know if he's still on or not.
I probably talked too long and clouded his opportunity to speak.
Yeah, it looks like he may have had to leave. So we've got a question here. Would you mind talking about the cost impact or difference of doing this type of a project compared to, say, the standard design build or design bid build project?
Oh, boy. Well, that's a developer's question, certainly. Because the cost impact for the hospitals that Turner is building and delivering is significant. They're able to bring about savings for those hospital owners, managers, and occupants by virtue of the streamlining that occurs inside of the IPD process. The use of the virtual modeling of every aspect of those structures and constructions are bringing about opportunities that are unexpected. They didn't know that if the electrician prefabricates every single thing assembly previous to being on the construction site, that specific aspect has streamlined both the assembly itself and the method of installing that assembly within the other systems, the other adjacent systems, to the point where savings have occurred in the interface of the mechanical engineers with the electrical engineers, and the mechanical contractors with the electrical contractors. So again, savings are the potential. They're not only just the possibility, but it's the potential and the reality for the cost impact.
Ernest, one other thing. Thank you, Ron. Ron has posted the Disney Concert Center. If anyone wants, they can go ahead and take a photo of that and look at that site later.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And we have no other messages in the chat at the moment.
So it's completely open to you to close the meeting, Jeff. I'm complete.
Okay, so again, everybody, medgar@aiaoc.org. If you missed that, it is in the chat. You can always go to the website and find it there as well. Please do send her the fact that you attended and your member number. That'll help her out. And then at this point, very well done, Ernest. We're at 1:35. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording and close the program.
Thanks so much.
You bet.